Now that Newt Gingrich has emerged as the frontrunner for the Republican nomination, he is taking a beating from both sides of the aisle, not only from his GOP rivals, but from Democrats as well. The Democratic National Committee now labeling the former House Speaker as the, quote, original Tea Partier, end quote, in a new ad. Let's talk about that and the highlights from the debate over the weekend with Mark Meckler and Beth Martin. They are co-founders and national coordinators of the Tea Party Patriots. It's an organization with 1,800 chapters and claiming to have 15 million members across the country. Welcome to both of you. You would know the candidate who is the original Tea Partier. Does this resonate with you when the DNC calls Newt Gingrich the original Tea Partier?
When they say that, I think of the original Tea Partiers not being us, but being Sam Adams and the people in Boston, Massachusetts. So if they're referring to the fact that Newt Gingrich and President Clinton balanced the federal budget, then maybe he is one of the early Tea Partiers, but I don't know what they're talking about.
Mark, what's your sense of the debate this weekend? Did anything change for you? Any game changers? Anybody upset anybody else?
I don't think there were any game changers. I think there were things that amused the press generally, and you see the occasional bungle. The Romney bet obviously didn't play very well. Other than that, I think it's
This is where he bet that he was having a disagreement with Rick Perry about something that was in his book, and he said, I'll bet you $10,000.
Yeah, and obviously the average American isn't running around betting $10,000 on pretty much anything. So that, I don't think that played too well, but I didn't see any real game change.
Let's talk about the exchange between Rick Perry and Newt Gingrich. A little bit about Gingrich's rocky private life in the past. Listen into this.
If you will cheat on your wife, if you will cheat on your spouse, then why wouldn't you cheat on your business partner? Or why wouldn't you cheat on anybody for that matter?
I've made mistakes at times. I've had to go to God for forgiveness. I've had to seek reconciliation. But I'm also a 68-year-old grandfather, and I think people have to measure who I am now and whether I'm a person they can trust.
Mark, you've said that the Tea Party is looking for a person of principle. Does this become a big issue for Newt Gingrich, and how did he handle that?
Well, I don't know whether it's a big issue, but it absolutely is an issue, and character is something that should always be considered, especially when we're talking about the president. It is an issue in the Tea Party, and I think it is something people will take into consideration when they're deciding who to vote for.
All right, Beth, let me ask you about this. Ron Paul, who's remained consistent and grown a little bit over the course of this, he attacked Gingrich for earning money as a consultant to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. He had about $1 million in consulting fees. Let's listen to what Ron Paul had to say.
If you look at Newt Romney, they were for
let's listen to Michelle Bachmann. That was Michelle Bachmann, actually. But we'll listen to Michelle Bachmann in just a second. Ron Paul said about Newt Gingrich that he basically took taxpayer money because taxpayers bailed out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Gingrich's response is that he offered strategic advice. He was in the private sector when he did it. He was working in the private sector. What's your sense of whether this is important?
Well, I think it is important. People around the country involved in the Tea Party movement know that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have had a lot of problems, and that our government, it's involved in things it shouldn't be involved in, and that's one of them. So the fact that he was making money off of it, it bothers people, and it's part of the reason why our supporters just don't know where they stand.
But does it matter if he was in the private sector and he was taking money at that time?
I think it does.
Right.
I can say from a very personal standpoint that when my husband and I lost our house, we were offered money from them, and we declined it and lost our house instead of taking money from them. I guess we were in the private sector too, but we didn't take that money.
Okay, let's. We were just listening to Michelle Bachmann. Do we have that again? Can we play what we just heard from Michelle Bachmann? Listen into what she had to say.
If you look at Newt Romney, they were for Obamacare principles. If you look at Newt Romney, they were for cap and trade. If you look at Newt Romney, they were for the illegal immigration problem. And if you look at Newt Romney, they were for the $700 billion bailout.
So she's done this effective job, and Michelle Bachmann is effective with these things. She's coined a new term, Newt Romney, taking aim at the two front runners, Mark. Where is Michelle Bachmann in this race when it comes to you and Tea Party Patriots?
Well, I think the most important thing is what she said was true. It was effective because it was true, and she was dealing with the issue of flip-flopping on major issues to Tea Partiers. I think Michelle's been remarkably consistent. I mean, that's the one thing you can say for her. She has stood on principle throughout her career and all the way through the election. So I think the people who are attracted to her candidacy, it really is about principle and consistency.
But the tougher conservatives, Jenny Beth, the Michelle Bachmann, Rick Santorum, they're not gaining more traction at the moment. Will they? Can they?
We'll see. Not a single vote has been cast,
right.
So it's hard to tell what's actually going to happen. Mark and I were talking before this started, and on December 18th, 2007, Giuliani was 10 points ahead in the polls, and he didn't make it out as a nominee.
We're 3 weeks away from a very, very important, from Iowa. Let's talk about this. We've got this poll, the CNN Time ORC poll that was taken between November 29th and December 6th about Tea Party supporters. And look where Gingrich is polling amongst Tea Party supporters. 62% of them support him or say they will support him in Florida, 40% in Iowa, 37% in New Hampshire, and 53% in South Carolina. What do you make of that, Mark? Are these numbers skewed? Because we got 3 weeks to go. Are these guys going to topple Gingrich, or could Gingrich become the Republican presidential nominee?
I think anything's possible. And again, those polls have been fluctuating pretty wildly.
Sure they
we've had
everybody's had a chance.
I was going to say we've had pretty much everybody as the front runner. And again, if you look at history, like Jenny Beth said, in December of 2007, you had Giuliani, and he was considered the presumptive nominee by pretty much everybody in the media at that time. So I think it's good that we look at our history, we take a deep breath, and we just wait to see how people actually vote.
But people like you are activists, so you're not really waiting. What do you think is likely to happen? What are your guesses as to what could happen in the next 3 weeks?
I think in the next 3 weeks, we're just going to watch how things pan out. People in Iowa are still paying attention.
Sure.
Iowa has to get out the vote. They're going to do that, and we'll see what happens in New Hampshire and South Carolina. And I was just in South Carolina last week. People are still, they really are still undecided, and they're still trying to make up their minds.
All right, so there's something to all these debates, in that there are some undecided people, and they're still thinking about it. Great to see both of you. Thank you for being with us. Mark Meckler and Jenny Beth Martin are co-founders and national coordinators with the Tea Party Patriots. Christine?
All right.